Thank you very much, Professor Malloy. One familiar procedural announcement and one new one. The familiar one is to remind you of the location of the webcast, which is at tinyurl.com/linkinghands. And the question was asked, given that the title of the symposium is Linking Arms, is it really linking hands? And yes, it is. The IT people were micro thinkers. They were looking at the end of the arms rather than the entire arm. So it is linking hands. Second procedural announcement, especially as we enter into this next session, and I invite the three panelists to come up to take their seats at the front while I am giving this introduction. Especially in this next section, if there is anyone who finds themselves so moved that they wish to speak to a counselor, we do have counselors available today. If you are in that situation, please speak to Peter Dawson, the person without whom today's event would not have taken place and who deserves all of our credit for his enormous work in that regard. Please speak to Peter and he will connect you with one of the counselors. The story of residential schools is not fundamentally about statistics, though the statistics are real and they are shocking, and they are sadly unfamiliar to all too many of us. Neither is the story of residential schools fundamentally about documents and policies, though the documents and policies are fundamentally important, and without them we couldn't chart the history of what has occurred. Ultimately, the story of the residential schools is about people. It is about the individuals, the parents, especially the children who were separated and forced to undergo that experience. It's about the survivors, and as Chief Littlechild reminded us at the beginning, those who did not survive. And it's about the successors and relatives of the survivors, because the effect, like ripples of a stone thrown into the pond, spread outwards and affect more than just the individuals themselves. We are truly privileged to hear in just a moment, as soon as I stop talking, from three survivors of the residential school system. I will not introduce them individually because in the telling of their own stories, they will introduce themselves far better than I would ever be able to, but I will name them. We are about to hear from Margaret Tourville, Michael Chena, and Murray Crow. Without any further ado, I will turn the microphone over to them.
My name is Margaret Tourville. I'm from up to Moosonee, Ontario. We lived happily with our mother. We had a great mother. She was good in every way. Until one morning, the nuns came and got us away from our mother. Mother did not give us away. She hung on to us so they wouldn't take us away and put us in a residential school. Oh, this is hard for me to say, but I'm going to try my best. So mother told me to look after my sister and brother. There was six, well, counting me, 6. And I did that when we got to Fort Albany. Until other children arrived in school, we had to stop saying hello to our brothers. This wicked nun, Sister Mary Macoleta was her name. She didn't, every time I waved at my brothers, she kept warning me to stop waving at your brothers. So she caught me again waving at my brother. So she got hold of me and she gave me the strap. I mean, it was a big strap in my behind. After a week or so, I forget because, see, we loved our brother. My sister keep asking me, how is Alphonse, Tony, and Sandy? And I said, then when we go outdoors, I look to see if I see them. And of course, again, I waved at them to assure them that we are okay. So I got caught again, and I got the strap again. This continued time after time, till one evening, at 11 o'clock in the evening, they came and got me out of bed. The chief there showed where the kids all slept, brought me back memories, just like it happened last night. So they brought me into this room just across from the chapel. First of all, they put a bag on my face, and I couldn't understand why. I was only 12 years old. So they pushed me in this room where I was raped there. It feels like it just happened. But anyways, I'm going to try my best. So he was a bishop of that school, the Catholic Church. He was a bishop. He was, I can't say the words I want to say about him, but so anyways, after he was finished, done with me, I was so ashamed of myself. It was not my fault, I know, but still I am ashamed to even look at the guys in their eyes because so anyways, this nun came and got me out of that room, took the bag off my face, and she considered it as a runaway. So I got the strap again. This time she made me count them. 40 straps. I tried to count and I tried not to cry. My body was in shock. So I did count all the straps she gave me. So after she was done strapping me, she told me, get dressed and time to go to school. I couldn't study in school. Like I said, my body was in shock. My mind traveled someplace else to the bush where we were happy. That's what kept me going. Our mother came to visit us at the Fort Albany residential school up north, and she only could spend half an hour with us, with 2 nuns there, like she was gonna run away with us. But I couldn't talk to her. She knew there was something wrong. I couldn't talk because I was warned if I did say anything, they're gonna kill me. So I didn't say nothing. So anyways, I got pregnant. I didn't know what it was. I got pregnant and this nun worked in the kitchen. I said to her, what's this rolling in my stomach? And she told me that I am with child. And she wanted to know who done it, and I couldn't tell her. So anyways, after that, I thought she was a trustful person, but I guess she wasn't. She went told this one nun, and they were very strict. They made you wear, so you don't show the baby, like your stomach. They put a corset on me, and oh. So anyways, after a few months went by, they came again and got me out of bed the same time at 11 o'clock. And they gave me some kind of a stuff to drink. Oh, it was awful. So anyways, they took me out of the school and put me across. There was a bridge there to go down the basement to a room, and they kept trying to get the baby out of me. It was awful, forcing the baby out of me. So the baby did come, and I heard the baby cried. So I end up in the hospital there for, I think, a day. And the nun there told me the baby died. I didn't want to believe it because I heard the baby crying. You know, when that baby was growing in me, I hated that baby. It was not even his fault. I keep saying it's a he, maybe it could be a she. I was only 12 years old. So anyways, after got back into the group with the girls and that, my sisters couldn't talk to me, not even a couple of my friends, they couldn't associate with me. I was very lonely there. Most of the time I was crying inside me for my mother. Mom, I call her Mom. So anyways, this went on for 6 years. I was in that school. Every month they always come and get me to come and clean the priest's house. It was not to clean the priest's house. I was raped there again by a priest. This went on and on. So finally, this priest was having a glass of wine, and I said to him, I said, "Can I have a little wine?" And he said to me, "You're just a child." Well, what am I doing here then? And so he decided to give me a glass of wine. And he throwed me in bed, and the rest, I can't. It's hard to talk about it. This went on months after months after months. And they wanted to take me out of that school. I said, no, I came here with my sister and brother, and I'm going to leave with them. I don't care what you do to me, but I'm not leaving them behind. And I didn't. I put up with every month of my teen life I never had. I don't know what it's like to be a teenager. I grew up so fast. So when it's time, after 6 years there, we all left together, but not one of us could talk to each other. everybody went their separate ways. My sister, both of them, they're gone today. They passed away. So, anyways, a lot of stuff happened in that residential school. If I had all day, I could talk about it, but I don't think I do. So, I'm happy to see people okay. Thank you for listening to me. I will say thank you.
My name is Michael Chena, and I'm from the Cree Nation, originally from James Bay. And I want to address the respected elders, the commissioner, the First Nations members, and special guests. I want to acknowledge that Toronto is the ancestral territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit First Nation. While Canada was still a colony, the Royal Proclamation of 1763, exactly 250 years ago, actually used the word nation to describe the indigenous peoples. The concept of Aboriginal nations as a bona fide third order of government deserves to be recognized, but not in the context of municipalities. The nation-to-nation relationship has been marred in colonialism and conflict because of the continuing state policy of assimilation. Canada was founded on treaties. Aboriginal and treaty rights are anchored in the Canadian Constitution of 1982, giving First Nations people special status and special rights, or distinct status. The Canadian state has to honor, uphold, and respect the inherent Aboriginal and treaty rights of First Nations. We do not cease to be Cree, Oji Cree, Algonquin, Mississauga, Ojibwe, or Mohawk once we step off the reserve lands. Most First Nations have historical ties and connection to the land, regardless of residency. First Nations are being confronted with challenging issues, that being failing to give Native people fair representation on juries, backlog of unresolved land claims, legitimate grassroots organizational representation, and chronic underfunding of Aboriginal organizations and reserve band councils, etc. Ottawa has been shirking its fiduciary responsibility for the grassroots off-reserve Native people by devolving that responsibility to the provinces. If you oppose Canadian government policies, you're treated like a criminal or an enemy of the state. As First Nations people, we inherited the Indian Act. In 1927, it was illegal for status Indians to organize politically. Native people on reserves were prohibited from having access to a business. We were disenfranchised or not allowed to vote until 1960. First Nations became subject to the power of the Indian Act. The 1969 White Paper also proposed to assimilate Indigenous people on reserves and abolish the Indian Act. Indian residential school indoctrination. Indian residential schools were sanctioned and funded by the federal government in 1879. Disconnection from the land, community, family, or siblings and culture are all part and parcel of the genocide. The rationale behind residential schools was to kill the Indian in the child. Major church groups or denominations were working as instruments of government policy. Generations of children were traumatized by the experience. We were forced to conform to the standards of the residential school system or get punished for it. For example, being subjected to a strap or physical beatings. Each student was assigned or identified by a number. He also went after our souls. Uniforms were issued to the students at the school. Church services were held on Sunday mornings for the entire student population. Physical and sexual abuse was widespread at the schools, and many former students described the experience as an attempt to brainwash them into rejecting their traditional ways in favor of European values and Christianity. A great deal about the schools were hidden from Canadians. Aboriginal children died in large numbers. The residential school system impacted generations of First Nations children. Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission has been established to examine the legacy of Indian residential schools. Thank you for inviting me. Miigwech.
Hi, my name is Murray Crow. I am from KI First Nations, Northern Ontario. Those of you who don't know who KI is, I'm from that reserve, the 6 band consulars that went to jail to protect their traditional land. And that's where I'm from. And for some people, it was called Big Trout Lake, Ontario. So that's where I am from originally. And my elder here, he's our support person. That's why we ask him to sit with us. So when we get too emotionally hurt, it never goes away. When we talk about the stuff that we went through, it hurts when we disclose some of the information to you. I just want you to imagine you have a child, the child you love, and all of a sudden, one day, when that child was 5.5 years old, and the government shows up, the police, church people, come and take him away. And that was my mom. I was 5.5 years old when they took me away. And I haven't been back to that reserve since. I'm 68 years old now. Commissioner Littlechild talked about the abuse this morning. It's a culture genocide. They tried to destroy our culture. Culture genocide is some of it has to do with the language. We weren't allowed to talk our own language. There were 200 students in the school I was in. The school was called Pelican Falls. If one person made a mistake, we all got strappings. I know some students say that they never got sexually abused. I just want to tell you that every time we got strapping, we had to take our fans down, get in the lineup in the basement, and we were exposed to the teachers, both male and female, and to the other students. That is sexual abuse. It doesn't matter how you look at it or how you break it, it is sexual abuse. So any survivor that tells me that they were never sexually abused, that's what I think about. And I know the punishments were very physical, severe. They had 2 strappings in my school. One strapping was made of a sawmill belt, but that's for our belts, for our bottoms. The others were shorter, made out of a harness. And they strap your hands, and you're screaming, crying. And it hurt so bad that you turn your hand like this. They kept strapping you. And they don't care if there's knuckles are bleeding. That's just part of our physical punishment. I've heard stories worse than that, and I've been to a number of conferences across Canada. And I can relate to that. I've seen it. And there's a thing called CEP, Common Experience Payment, where you have to, just to verify that you went to residential school, and you got paid $10,000 first year, $3,000 for every year after that. That's what brought me to come out and say I'm a survivor. I didn't want to tell anybody that I went to residential school for years. I hid it for 45 years. I didn't want to tell anybody that I went to residential school because I was ashamed to say that I went to this school. If you want to hear my full story, all you have to do is contact TRC, trc.ca. When we give our statements to the commissioners, we sign a form that says you sign public or private. I signed public so you could hear my whole story. My whole story is 91 minutes, and I did it in Sault Ste. Marie in 2011. It took me long. And I never told anybody that I'm a survivor until 2005. So I hid it for 45 years. I married to a woman. She's a Potawatomi. They're Southern Ontario. She never went to residential school. She don't know nothing about residential school. So it was easy for me to hide it. But during the time when my daughter and my son were growing up with us, my daughter used to ask my wife, just give me a minute. She used to ask her mom, why is Daddy crying at night? Why is Daddy crying at night? And my wife would tell my daughter, I think something happened to your dad a long time ago. And she said she didn't know what it was. And just I'll move ahead. I'll jump ahead. I can't tell you about the too much about sexual abuse that happened to me in residence school, but I was sexually abused by a female staff. I don't know if she was a nun or the staff. There was a show the other day, it's called When We Were Termin. I could never look at that movie for a long time. I couldn't see it in Montreal when they were showing it. I couldn't see it any time because it hurts too much to watch it. But I watched it the other night because 4 of my daughters showed up, and one of my sons, and they said that, Dad, you gotta see that sometime. You gotta see it sometime. We'll be here with you. We'll watch it together. The place that hit me in that show is when they locked that boy in the room, in the dark room, lock him away. Because that's what they did to me. The only difference is he had a bed. I didn't have a bed. I just had a mattress in the middle. And they shut all the lights off and they locked me in there because I was crying, keeping everybody awake in the dormitory. And I got strapping before that too. So that was a very emotional part for me. And they did that to me for 7 years. That's a long time, I was only 6 years old. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The sexual part, I can't really describe too much. It's, when they took me to the nursing station to ease, they would to put oil on my back to ease the pain. They had staff rooms in the hallway, and one of the female staff took me there. And started rubbing me with oil and water to ease the pain. But that's what the sexual part was. I can't really disclose here the details. If you want to hear the details, you can contact TRC.ca my story, and you'll see you will hear the whole story. When I told that story, there were people that can't believe it. It happened. It happened to me. It happened to thousands. It happened to thousands and thousands of survivors across Canada. What happened to me? Not just me, it happened. I didn't believe that for the longest time. Pelican Falls, I thought, was the only school like that in Canada. I didn't know there were others. I know there were other residence schools, but I didn't know there were other schools that did strappings, physical punishment, severe. I was hospitalized 3 times. There was to the point where they could strap us down in the basement. There were to the point where I used to hang on to the banister because I didn't want to go downstairs anymore. What they did, they just pulled us out and they just threw us down the stairs. And I got injured. First time I got injured was about 7 years old, and I was in the hospital for 6 months. I was on a wheelchair. When I got faith CEP, it showed that I wasn't in attendance in school for 2 years. The reason that it didn't show is because I was in the hospital. So there's a thing called reconsideration form you have to fill up. You have to prove it to, I don't know who the investigators are to the CEP. But my aunt was working in that hospital. She was one of my witnesses. So she faxed that information to the people that wanted to find out about my the missing records. They wind up paying me 3 years, but I don't know why they paid me 3 years. Maybe because I was in the hospital. I don't know. But I wind up getting to $9,000. I was supposed to be getting $6,000, but I wound up getting $9,000. So I wasn't going to complain about that. So I don't know why they paid me that. That's the easy part. I can't tell you the whole story, but I told this story. I told the story in Halifax too. I just want to tell you this briefly. In 2005, former National Chief Phil Fontaine announced that they're going to pay $10,000 first year for anybody that went to residence school to come out and say they went to that residence school. They'll give them $10,000. And they're going to give them $3,000 for every year after that. I was emotional. I was working as a counselor at Native Men's Residence. I'm also a social worker. I went to university. I got my degree in social work. They told me I wouldn't pass grade 7 when I was in residence school. That's another story. Anyway. So I was walking around, pacing back and forth in my office. I didn't want to tell anybody I'm a survivor, but the money sounded good. It sounded really good. That means my wife's going to find out. My kids are going to find out. During that time, my daughter, my son, my wife when they see this on TV every day, they would say, those Native people, those 4 Native people that went to these awful schools, they're finally going to pay them. They're finally going to give them compensation for all the abuse they took. And I said, yes, they will, I guess. And then it went on like this for a long time. And finally, one day, after supper, I told my wife when my daughter was a teenager and so was my son. I want to tell you something, guys. Those people you feel sorry for, those people you're talking about, I'm one of them. And that's when my daughter jumped up. She was crying. She had tears in her eyes. That's when she told me that when she was growing up, she used to hear Dad crying, and she didn't almost lots of times. And when she asked her mom didn't know why. That's why. I'm sitting talking to you here. This is not easy to talk about. The other survivors across Canada will tell you it's not easy to talk about. Truth and TRC wants us to help them tell the dark history of our dark history. They want you to know what happened to us. They need our help to tell you the story. What happened to us? We are the survivors. I survived there, and I survived 7 years first school I went. I survived 2 years after that. And they shipped me across the border to the States because they didn't want me to go home because my dad was causing all kinds of problems to residential schools. So I went to school there 1 year in Pennsylvania. I took grade 9. I just want to tell you today that I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're here to listen to us, because we need your support. We need everybody. We want you to tell the story to somebody. Tell your friend. Tell your wife when you get home. Tell your students if you're a teacher. I can't tell you the whole story, what happened to me. I'm only telling you a little bit, very little, probably about this much, what happened to me. I got pinched every time they called my language, speak my language. They pinch a needle in my mouth. Or they slap me across the face. They smack me with a yardstick across my back. Or they give me a strapping in the bottom. They want to destroy our culture. Like I said, I was 5.5. The only thing I can remember is when they shaved my head. They put kerosene in my head because they assumed that all of us had lice. We're dirty savages. We're going to turn you people into real Christians, to a mainstream society. We're going to teach you the right way to live, you know. I am running out of time here, and I want to ask people that are running this. I want my elder to say a few words. So I want to thank you. Is it? Yeah. Somebody just told me to keep going over there. I thought I was only allowed 20 minutes because I can speak for 2 hours. Yeah, okay. You know what? I'm going to, if you want to talk to me after, I'm not going to say anything because I want my elder to say a few words. He's our main support. He's one of the reasons why I'm sitting here, because he's the one that wants us to come and tell you the story. I want to thank you all for listening to me. Miigwech.
I'm Mashkego Cree from up in the James Bay area. And I work at Council Fire, where I've been running healing circles with my friends here for the last 10 years. And it's about the last 3 years they're able to start telling their story of their experience in residential school. But I myself went to residential school for 11 years up in Fort Albany, same place where Margaret went. I know the bishop she's talking about because he was the only one person in the community that used to smoke a cigar, and that's how Margaret found out who that person was. Anyway, for me, I was only about the same age as Murray. Went to residential school for the trap line. And that school is supposed to prepare you to be a good person, to be a good Christian. That's what it was all about, to be able to assimilate into our country in a good way. Before I went to residential school, I was well behaved, growing up in a trap line. And then when I came out of residential school, I was a different person. I was a different person because the school supposed to prepare me to be a good Christian. But instead, when I came out, they gave me 4 demons. They gave me 4 demons. One of them was shame, humiliation, dehumanization, and trauma. And I carried those demons for a long time. Remember, I was supposed to be a good person, but that's what the Christian school gave me. That's how it prepared me for life. To be an ugly person for many years before I started going back to learn from my elders again to become a good person. It was a long journey, but that's what I was prepared for coming out of that school. And that's what happened to many of us survivors. We were prepared for the wrong reason for life. And that's why many of our communities have a huge amount of family violence because of us, which we give it to our children too. And it's up to us survivors to bring that healing. Nobody else is going to do for us. Not even TRC is going to do for us. It's up to us individually to bring that healing to our communities, to our family. The TRC is good, encouraging. It makes us tell our story. But it's up to us to find that compassion that we need. As I speak to you, I was abused in residential school, but as I speak to you, I'm also an ordained Anglican priest. And many times people ask me, why did you become a priest when you were abused in residential school? If you were to listen to me for 11 hours straight without taking a break, I'll tell you, I have no takers yet. I'll tell you, but you have to be able to listen to me for 11 hours straight. And I'll tell you my story, how I became an Anglican priest today and work here in Toronto with the street people. The abuse that I received in school became a blessing for me. A blessing working with those people I'm sitting with and working with the survivors on our streets of Toronto, because I can honestly tell them I know how it is to be put into shame. I know how it is to be dehumanized. I know how it is to be traumatized. I can listen to you. I might not be able to help you, but I'll listen to you. And I think that's our work as a survivor, is to help bring healing to our nation. Like we heard from my friends, residential school is your history. It's not mine only. All of us sitting here, that's our history. So that's my story to you about my residential school experience. It's a long journey, but it helped me along the way. And I know other survivors can do it too. If I can do it, they can do it too. Miigwech, Nawe. Thank you.
I thank you very, very much for what was obviously painful to tell us, much, much more painful to live through. I wonder if you would be willing to answer any questions that members of the audience have. If there are any questions, there are two students with microphones who will be able to come to wherever you're seated. Just raise your hand if you have a question you'd like to ask.
It's not a question, it's really just a comment. You've moved this room. We could hear the pins falling on the floor. Margaret, particularly, your story touched me. You have incredible strength to have found the words to tell your story and to share with a new generation of Canadians who've come to this country as young children. A past that affects us and a past that we should know about. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Increasingly, racialized minority youth are encountering a lot of socioeconomic difficulties. Aboriginal youth, for example, in terms of the educational aspect, they're not doing too well. What can be done to improve the situation within this 21st century?
Can you repeat the question?
A lot of racialized minority youth, including Aboriginal youth, are encountering a lot of socioeconomic problems. Even within the educational aspect, they're not faring too well. What can be done to improve the situation within this 21st century?
Teach youth about the residential schools in schools. Tell them what happened to us, what happened to the generation, in our generation. Educate them so they can pass on to generations after them. Tell the youth to tell their teachers. Tell them to write the story, songs, and to enhance the history of our people. Where are you from? You're Canadian, right? Yeah. Okay, English, thanks.
Yeah, I guess the best way to awareness of what happened, and to be able to make them understand that this is a real story. This is what happened. You know, children were taken away, and some were taken far, far away. I know where I come from in Northern Ontario. The school was located in Fort Albany, and they brought children as far as Pewanak, that's up in the Hudson Bay area, and as far as Armstrong, just west of Thunder Bay, and then as far as Kapuskasing, I think. So they brought them from all over, and especially the students, children from Pewanak. They were only brought in. What happened in the far north is there used to be a Hudson Bay Company. They used to run supplies up to the far north. And when they come back with empty, that's how they bring in the children to Fort Albany. I myself went by that boat from Fort Albany. I went to Moosonee. That's how I first went to residential school. Especially those ones that came from Pewanak. Most of those ones, they never went home. They never went home. They really lost contact with their parents, even with their extended family. And I think those are the ones that suffered the most because they lost their connection, their way of life, and they became different people growing up in the institution. So that's what we need to tell people. We need to tell people that tell them a story in this way. Pretend you were a trapper, and then usually trappers go out in August. So you leave in the middle of August to go trapping. You come back 2 weeks before Christmas. And as you come back to your community, you don't see children playing out in the riverbanks. No children. And you ask yourself what happened. You know, you walk into your house, you see your wife sitting there all alone, and you know when you left you had 5 children when you went to your trap line. And here there's none. Then you ask you what happened. Well, they came and take them away. Just like what it says. They took them away. You know, and that's what happened in many communities. There were no children. Thank you.
I can see the way that yous were taken from your families. I was the same way. My older brother, though, he took me. He'd already been through residential schools. He took me over into the States before they could catch me. And I didn't come back. All my brothers were already in residential schools, all my sisters. But that breaking, that from my mother, it was like tears. You know, like I couldn't understand why they took me away from my mother. And it was only my sister-in-law who taught me how to pray that really made my spirit adjust to that loss. But we look at the way that residential schools have, and the only way that we can educate them, there's it's called Project of Heart. And what they do is the high school students are taking this on inside of the educational system now, and they take a small block, and it represents an individual, whether they were survivors or whether they died, because some schools take on survivors, and so they actually invite some of the survivors from the different residential schools into their rooms so that they can experience the kind of experience you're giving us now. So it educates the youth of our society. And that kind of is good for us because they get to see just what we were. And some of them, they have to take the ones that died. And there's going to be more and more of these children that are turned up that have died because the records were just turned over to the. So it's one of the things that we can do by promoting Project of Heart inside of the high schools so that they get a first-hand glimpse of what took place in the past. But not holding rocks, trying to get rid of them, kind of get rid of that stain that's been left inside of our minds, that hurt, is really hard. But we have to go on because of the fact that Children Aid are stealing more and more of our children to this day. We just went through a meeting with the Ontario government over Children Aid and the way that they're stealing the children. Is there going to be another Truth and Reconciliation for those children? And I don't really want to see it to happen. But I can't deny that it's not happening. My own nephew, he was taken away from his mother because Children Aid saw it bent that she wasn't looking after him in the right phase, and he was sexually molested in there. He's only 18 years old. He's already got that stain. How long can they keep on doing this to us? And so I'm just sending out that kind of a message to youths who've already went through it, that we should start to prepare to have some other kind of help so that the children that are subject to the Children Aid Society can have a help place to do that. And so the Truth and Reconciliation Council is going to be, their money has run out, their mandates have run out, but by promoting Project of Heart inside of our high school systems, I think that it's going to be helpful and beneficial to all of our nations.
I just want to say one more thing before we leave, is that there are many good things that we also learned in residential school. Like my friend here is a good hockey player. He learned that in school. Same with Mike. And there are many also trades that we learned in residential school. Like I know I learned to make cabinet making. Like in my own house, I designed my own kitchen cabinets, because that's what I learned. So there are things that were beneficial in residential school. It was not always in the dark, but there were some good things that many of us came out with. It's just the emotional, the mind that was disturbed. Thank you.
I'm afraid we don't have time for any more questions at this point. There will perhaps be opportunity later in the day, and there certainly will be informal opportunity around the events. I am proud to be a Canadian. It's difficult to recognize that my country has been responsible for what we have heard about this morning, has caused the pain that we have heard about. I think my country's better than that. I expect my country to be better than that. But it is true. My country is not perfect. And we have to recognize the truth of what has happened in order to be able to move beyond that truth. And that's where the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is so important. More Canadians, all Canadians, must understand the truth of what has happened in order that we can move on to reconciliation. For without that truth, reconciliation is not possible. But fortunately, it is possible to move to reconciliation, not to deny the truth of the past, but to accept, recognize, regret, and move forward. I congratulate the commissioner, his fellow commissioners, and above all, I congratulate the survivors whose stories are so powerful and so important to all of us. Thank you. Thank everyone here. And I'd now like to call on Peter Dawson to tell us what happens next.
Thank you. What happens next, I'm going to ask you to stand. too was raised in a Catholic boys' school, and some of your stories touch me. And yet, I cannot but otherwise say how much I appreciate what you're doing. I admire, I cherish, and I embrace the stories that you have provided with us, at times over many days. You are providing us with an opportunity of finding reconciliation in the very experience that you tell us about. And I say to you, thank you, and I say to you from my heart, I bless you. Thank you. We are on this pathway together, and in many ways, you are the bright light that's showing us the way. And for that, too, I thank you.
We want everybody to walk with us from here on. Thanks, Miigwech. We will be breaking for lunch, and we will be reconvening as per the program. There's lunch, which is just across the way in Atkinson College. There is some food available in the moot court, and I can assure you the food available in both areas are just fantastic. So I look forward to seeing you back here at, I guess, around 1:15.